What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-View-Point edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are Robert DeFelice.
NXT is so good.
It so is. We're going to get into so many good things to talk about. And Callum Wiggins. Let me preface this by saying I've been having such a bad fucking week, and I've talked about this for over a while now. Like, this has been such a drain on me and stuff, and this is going to be such a positive review. So if you're thinking that this is going to be another crap fest, totally not. I'm in a good mood. I had a horrible day yesterday, absolutely terrible day. I've had a horrible week, and I went into this going, man, if this sucks, I'm just going to be so beaten down. And it was the best pay-per-view of the year, as far as I'm concerned. I'm spoiling the Smark Out Moment Awards, but yeah, this is the best pay-per-view of the year. I have nothing negative to say about this. I did the highlights and the low points for Bleacher Report. No low points. Couldn't even nitpick anything. This is awesome. And I'm going to be smiling ear to ear this whole time, so for anybody who's not used to it, yay, we get to do that. How refreshing is this to be happy about something all the way through and go, instead of being like, well, it was okay, but 2 out of 3 matches were great, or like one of those kind of things. No, I loved every aspect of this. This was so fucking good.
Yeah.
I feel so good to say that. Legitimately feel like there's like a weight lifted off my shoulders. And it's going to suck so much tomorrow night when it gets to put back on. But, well, we want to celebrate while we can. Let's talk pre-show, just for the sake of talking pre-show. Pat McAfee was better tonight, I think. I've never been the biggest fan of Pat McAfee, but I enjoyed him. I know that you like him a lot, Rob.
I think he's just a ball of energy, and he's fun to watch, you know?
I was not the biggest fan of him before, and I don't know if he kind of reined himself in a little bit differently or something, or maybe I don't know, some kind of good luck thing caught on or something like that, but yeah, I liked it. This was a short pre-show, and that's good. They got rid of all the things they needed to get rid of ahead of time. They incorporated a little bit of Kassius Ohno and Matt Riddle, just to kind of keep things going a little bit. Threw out a little reference for Nita Strauss, a little promo there, and some talk about the whole like evolution and stuff, because we didn't keep that train going and everything. But you know, when a pre-show is short like this, I don't have any issues with it. When it's 2 hours and it ends up being a whole big thing, then it's a different story, and we'll see what that happens with like at Survivor Series. But thumbs up as far as pre-show goes, for my opinion. Any thoughts you guys have on that, other than pre-show's pre-show?
Yeah, I thought it was short, sweet, and to the point. I wish more pre-shows were like that.
It's just a pre-show. It's hard to get any sort of level of excitement over it. The fact that it just is over quickly is just the biggest benefit, really.
I know, it's just another example though of how much better things are in NXT, where it's it's efficient, it does everything that it's supposed to do, and it's not obnoxious about it. It's just kind of like, hey, if you haven't seen NXT in a while, these are the matches, these are the feuds going on. Who do you think's going to win? All right, let's move on. Next thing is this. Now we're done. Check out NXT. And you're like, okay, cool. Just enough time for me to like go to the bathroom a little bit, or grab some food, or whatever the case may be. Or if you're watching it with friends and they haven't been following NXT, it's enough for them to get filled in on.
Do you guys know what that job was for ESPN that they were talking about for Charlie?
It's a while ago. She had gotten signed for something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she does. She does some kind of other show like on the side for them.
I did not know that.
Further proof of how Charlie Caruso is pretty damn good.
Very true.
Big fan. So I mentioned before that they had brought up Kassius Ohno and Matt Riddle, which was a fun little thing, and that actually became a part of the card. They had done, for anybody who doesn't know, they did TakeOver. Not TakeOver. They did tapings for NXT on Thursday night. And what's weird about this is they kind of couldn't necessarily spoil too much of what was happening at NXT TakeOver, but they sort of did. And everybody kind of assumed that the Kassius Ohno Matt Riddle match would happen at the tapings, because they had said those two were going to fight next week on NXT, meaning this upcoming Wednesday, but they didn't do it, which was really kind of strange. And it was like, oh, okay, well, maybe they're going to do it on the pre-show part of TakeOver. And the pre-show part of TakeOver went by. As far as I'm aware, they didn't record anything, right?
No.
So that's...
I don't know whether they always do it before or they do it after. I guess maybe they tend to do it beforehand, but yeah, I haven't heard of anything.
I think that they do it beforehand. I think they do it kind of like during video packages and different things like that. But either way, they didn't do anything beforehand. And the Kassius Ohno Matt Riddle match was kind of like up in the air. It was like, well, then when are they going to air this thing? Because if they don't have the tapings from the other day, they don't have anything now, like they can't just like, you know, have those two hang out backstage and do it or something. Like, you know, it'd be kind of strange. So they kick off this show with Matt Riddle coming out to the ring. And he essentially says, like, let's just have this fucking match now. And it's a one-kick match. Matt Riddle blasts Ohno with a kick right to face. Ohno falls down. Riddle pins him. 1, 2, 3. That's the end of it. And I liked it.
I'm a Kassius Ohno fan, so if I was going to have one negative, it would be this, because I think he's a lot better than he's presented to be, but it was effective for what it needed to be.
I mean, it's an effective way of trying to get Matt Riddle over as quickly as possible. My biggest complaint with it would be that I wouldn't have had Matt Riddle wrestle on NXT TV beforehand.
Oh, this would have been his debut, or his debut, as he says.
Yeah, because the fact he's already had a, like, I wouldn't say like competitive, but like a fairly even kilter match with Luke Menzies, who's absolutely nothing on an NXT episode, and then he goes in and just flattens Kassius Ohno in with one move. It's like, it's a bit. It makes Ohno look like shit, and he shouldn't really look. I mean, I know he's not a big priority, and he never really has been in NXT. But if he's gonna have the role of like the gatekeeper, introducing a lot of the new people in, he needs to look better against other people.
Can we take a sidebar real quick and mention how Luke Menzies needs to change that last name? Menzies.
What's the issue with Menzies?
Isn't that what some people refer to as like a nicer way of saying menopause?
Yeah, I guess so.
When people are like, "Oh, they're suffering from the Menzies," it's like,
yeah, yeah. I'm looking at
Luke menopause.
Yes, in fact, that's what people refer to it as.
Yeah,
Matt Riddle struggled to beat that. So...
Well, he's what, 32?
Yeah.
He's too young for that.
But see, I liked the idea that Ohno got his ass handed to him, because to me, that positions him even more as this kind of asshole heel. Because he's definitely a heel now. They haven't like flat out gone with the heel turn in the sense of him like attacking, you know, a baby or something like that. But like, he might as well be doing things like that, because his whole thing is just like, I'm bitter that I'm a loser and I'm going to start picking a fight with everybody. And for him to win matches, he can win. Yeah, he has to win for some people. You know, he could beat Raul Mendoza. He could beat Menzies. But for him to put up a good big contest about Matt Riddle, it would have gone a little bit longer, and they didn't have enough time to be able to do that. So I like the idea that Riddle just caught him, and now Ohno, whenever the next tapings is, which I think is the 28th, they can do some kind of a thing where he's just kind of like, that didn't count, like I wasn't ready, I want a real match with you, and then maybe they can have like a real match and stuff. Got the crowd to pop.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, as long as they do actually have a real match, because I'd be really looking forward to what they could actually do against each other, rather than just like a one move thing.
And
yeah,
I don't know too much about Matt Riddle. Like, I haven't seen his indie stuff. I've never watched his UFC fights and stuff. But between the last match that he had and this, some of the appeal I get, some of the appeal I don't get. Like, a lot of people are kind of touting him as like the next big thing and stuff, and I don't want to quite go that far, but I can see why people are interested in him. So this went a little further to convince me that he's worth the investment too. A big old thumbs up from me. 10 minutes into the event, we already have something kind of cool extra on top of things. I'm down with that. Then we had the 2 out of 3 falls for the NXT Women's Championship. It was Shayna Baszler defending successfully against Kairi Sane. Let me go to my notes here because I had written down, this is when I started actually writing down notes for the matches. One of them being, I really liked how Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir were responsible for that first fall, because Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane, their chemistry together is great. And we've talked about this before. They've had 4 great matches before this. This is their 5th great match. Baszler plays up the heel role so well that even if Kairi Sane wasn't also doing her job as a babyface, she would still be in a good position just because of how good Baszler is with that. And for them to start this off with 2 people on the outside help Baszler get the first fall, now Kairi Sane is not only the underdog because she's not the champion and the smaller of the 2, and not necessarily the tougher of the 2 based off of the whole careers and stuff, but she's got outside interference working against her, and she has to fight back from underneath with one missing pinfall. That's a great way to position your babyface. Logic on this event was through the roof. And it goes to show that the writers in WWE that are working on these kind of things, the NXT people know what they're doing. And that's like, they need bonuses because they're so good.
Do you think that it's a case of NXT writers being like wide-eyed, fresh graduates who have a grasp on the real world and aren't like lost in the wrestling bubble?
I don't know if it's that or if it's just that they're not going through this filter that screws everything up.
Yeah, I think. Well, I can't know for certain, so I don't really know the process, but I would assume that there's less people involved in the process, and also they talk about it like in advance and like build it up over time. And also I think the fact having like tapings in bunches helps as well, because you have to plan for like 3 or 4 episodes in advance, and then you have to go ahead, whereas on Raw and SmackDown you seemingly are booking week to week. So, and if all reports are true, then Vince McMahon could just change what the script is Monday morning, and it could be completely different by Monday night. So,
oh god, I feel so bad for them.
Yeah, so it seems to be there's more of a process to this as opposed to like how he feels on that day or how people feel on the particular day.
And that's the type of thing too that you might not even realize it if you're the type of person who would rather. I'm blank on the phrase now. It just had it in my mind. It's something like fly by the seat of their cuffs or something. Is that how it goes?
Fly by the seat of their pants.
What's the cuff thing I'm thinking of? Off the cuff.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Fly by the seat of their pants that are off the cuff. There you go. If you're the type of person that wants to be more spontaneous about things and you don't like planning things out, you might think it's a better idea to not be able to have to plan things out ahead of time. But NXT shows that thinking in advance does help out storylines. And when you're on the main roster and you're the type of person that's writing things and it's Tuesday afternoon and you're like, well, what do we do? You just lose track of things over time. And then that's why you get people that don't wrestle for weeks and weeks and weeks on the main roster. Whereas on NXT, yeah, I mean, we're not going to see Fabian Eichner every week or something like that, but they weren't doing anything with him, so now he's the Evolve champion. And they weren't doing much with the Street Profits. Well, they're the Evolve Tag Team champions. Like, maybe they take an extra hour to plan things out, and that makes all the difference in the world. So with Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane, this is the 5th match that they've had, and I'm somebody who complains all the time about rematches. I was excited for it. And I even knew who was going to win this based off of the tapings, because the tapings had Shayna Baszler walk out with the championship, and I still didn't care. So the ending was spoiled of a rematch for the 5th time, and I'm just like, oh, this is going to be great, and it was. They had a great spot here with Kairi Sane fighting back, and she nailed that elbow drop on all 3 on the outside. Hit the elbow drop again in the ring to get the pin. Showed a little bit of love to Dakota Kai and Io Shirai by having them come out and try to help make the difference up by offsetting the numbers game and everything. So that already sets up the idea that they can do Kairi Sane, Dakota Kai, and Io Shirai against Shayna Baszler and Duke and Shafir. Great thing to be able to put out there, especially because it helps with Duke and Shafir if they're not really all that well versed in the ring yet. Putting them in a six-woman tag match, that helps give them a little bit of experience, a little bit of showcasing on NXT television, and they learn a little bit from it. Like, how is this logic not applied to everything? It's so good. Love this match.
Logic.
And Baszler retains, which is the smart move because she's the bigger priority going forward. She walks out of this looking like a real bitch because she had two people help her, which is great because she's a heel. Kairi Sane looks strong because she still almost ended up winning the match. What's there to complain about?
Do you want me to start? No, it's there's nothing majorly to complain about. I thought that obviously the match was very good. I thought for a 2 out of 3 fall stipulation, it was far too short.
Do you know how long it was? I should probably look that up.
It was about 11 minutes, whereas every other match, obviously following from that point on, you had an 18-minute match, a 22-minute match, and a 47-minute long match. And it's like, well, this is the match you're giving a 2 out of 3 full stipulation to. It really should be going about 20 minutes if you can manage that. And I know there's differences with like levels of experience, but I'm pretty sure Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler could put together a fairly competent 15-20-minute match. Obviously, the first 4 ended very quickly, but that was a good way to just immediately have Kairi Sane having to battle from underneath to get the victory, which makes a lot of sense. I thought Shafir and Duke's interference was clunky. It didn't actually look that good. Like, to have the referee have to stand outside there and looking at Shayna Baszler for what felt like hours. Obviously, I know it was only like a minute or so, but it's like, yeah, you kind of just have to do it immediately and then get her in a matter of seconds. And I know they're like less experience, so that'll come over time. But other than that, the actual action within the ring was like very good, very solid, as you'd expect between these two. I really liked the overall finish, which was once everyone's like been cleared out outside, Baszler just about avoids an elbow drop and just rolls her up Sane up immediately. That was a good way to end it, with Sane still looking good, but Baszler just being wily enough to steal the victory when the moment presented itself.
That apron spot, though.
The DDT.
That made me. That was an audible reaction from me because apron spots just are so cringy, and that one was nasty. Like, that looked like somebody made a mistake, but it made it all the more effective when Kairi actually got the win off of the elbow drop that followed that.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of those things that I went back, and that's another thing that's good about, watching things on the network instead of, like, on Monday Night Raw or something like that. It was just like, all right, let me go back and check that out real quick by hitting the 10-second button on there instead of trying to do your DVR and being like, all right, now, I hit fast forward too fast or something, and now I'm back 6 minutes or, whatever.
But yeah, like you said, it was still an excellent performance. Baszler doing the heel stuff. I love with people like Baszler, and obviously we'll talk about Ciampa later and stuff like that. They're heels that get actual legitimate heat from the crowd, and obviously the interference helps in that side of things. But she's a heel that does all her stuff well, but still gets booed. Whereas if you look at a team like Undisputed Era, because they're very like cool heels, they get cheered as much as they do the other team they're facing. So it's nice to see a legitimate heel get the response that they want.
Yeah, and she is just killing it at that, which means all the more when they come up to the main roster and they do that 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen thing. I mean, Rousey and company have to be the heels.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll talk about this later, but Rousey's done herself not a lot of favors in the acting like a babyface department, so she's gonna fit right in with these 3.
Plus, she recently was doing a whole thing where she was saying how cool it was that she took her first chair shot. So it was labeled something on like Squared Circle, whatever, as like, don't forget that Ronda Rousey's still very much a mark or something. And it's like, that's good that she still is like so passionate about this too, because at some point she's going to really, really want to be a heel too. And whether it's against Becky Lynch at WrestleMania, or it's against Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, or it's the 4 Horsewomen thing, Baszler is a heel. She's just guaranteed a heel. And it would be doable if they didn't have everybody on one side be heel, everybody on one side be babyface. But when you bring outsiders in a little bit, there's kind of a homegrown people versus the outsiders kind of territorial warfare. And when you get somebody like a Ronda Rousey, who's at the top of the division and everything like that, some people are going to be like, oh, she needs to get taken down a peg. And Baszler's so good at being a heel, and Duke and Shafir, you know, they can kind of tag along and stuff. But all the more reason, like, imagine Baszler kind of heading the charge of, like, this is how we need to be heels for this. It's going to be so good. So that's just one match, essentially, because the Matt Riddle one doesn't really count. And I was thinking to myself, man, all right, we're off to a great start. Let's hope that nothing ends up like, you know, falling by the wayside here. And then we get Alistair Black versus Johnny Gargano.
Woo!
Phenomenal match. Like, I mean, that was another thing where I was like, crap, this is even better. And it even started off with a good little note that I had written down about, we were talking before, what's Gargano going to come out as? Maybe it would be Venom. He ended up going with Punisher, which makes a lot of sense because he's kind of a tweener right now. He's leaning more towards heel, but he's referring to himself as still being the good guy, and he's really only being up against Aleister Black, who's, you know, you can kind of read between the lines a little bit. No man is ever truly good. No man is ever truly evil. He's a babyface, but he's kind of, you can play around with that a little bit. Gargano's main enemy is Ciampa, a heel. So you can still kind of make the argument that he's an anti-hero or a tweener. And that's exactly what Punisher is. Punisher is a horrible, horrible, bad person for the good side. So, great little touch with that. The design looked cool, you know, the little winky face looking like it's got like the Punisher skull thing going on, which at first I read as like the winky face throwing up. So, that was kind of funny. But that was a nice little touch. And the match itself, I mean, they've got such a good showcase of their athleticism between Black is doing all these kinds of moonsaults and stuff, and there was a one spot where Gargano did the tope into a DDT. That was fucking great. Another just I nothing bad to say, just great action start to finish.
And good storytelling. They interjected a lot of character into what they were doing. I really enjoyed the please put me out of my misery, you know, and him inviting the Black Mask and then trying to trick him into a roll-up, which then floated right into the Gargano escape. And he is screaming, I'm the hero, I'm the good guy here. And just so good, man.
If you can check off athleticism, ring psychology, storytelling, not like a distinct heel babyface type of dynamic, all this other kind of stuff, and you're not even like the main event or something like that, kudos.
It's, again, just a really incredible match. It's like he's only been gone for a few months, but you don't realize how much you miss Aleister Black in the ring until you see him, and didn't realize how much he was taken away from NXT, that he just wasn't around, even if it would just be in like a couple of matches on TV. But he is just incredible. Like the entrance coming out, the flurry of kicks, like the combinations he puts together. I mean, there's obviously people that have a lot of cool moves, but people that can just put these cool moves into succession like he does, there's very few people. There's very few people that bump for a DDT like he does, because like both with the tornado DDT to the outside and the slingshot DDT in, the bumps that he took for it were amazing. Gargano was great. Gargano was really good as like a conflicted, well, I wouldn't say conflicted. He was forthright in the fact that he was the hero, but having to embrace a darker edge to himself, taking elements from the DIY days by using Ciampa's knee and stuff like that to try and beat Alistair Black. It's really good, like, elements to it. It was a well-told story as well as a really excellent display of athleticism. I also like the final touch at the end, obviously, when Black goes for the killing blow, saying, "I absolve you of all your sins." It's quite an interesting thing, because that could just lead to Gargano. He failed in that thing, but it can now just be a bit more of a freeing thing for him, and he can return to the light side going forward. Or it could just be something that pushes him even further down the darkness. So it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is to that.
You know what I'd like to see going forward if they go with Gargano tries to become a babyface again? I don't know if they've ever actually done this type of story. They might have, and it might have been when I wasn't watching, or it might just be, that I've lost track of God knows how many years of wrestling. But have we ever had a situation where a babyface has been in Gargano's kind of spot where he needs to now make it up to everybody else to prove that he's a good guy, so he goes almost overboard in trying to be a good guy? Like, maybe, for instance, Lars Sullivan is beating down who's like somebody that's kind of pathetic on the NXT roster.
Mendoza or
yeah, Mendoza. Why not? Lars Sullivan's beating the shit out of him. He's already beaten him in a match, and he's just kind of having fun toying around with him. And Gargano comes out to make the save, and everybody's like, "Oh wow, okay, like that's a nice move or something." And then another week, somebody's backstage, and there's like maybe like a brawl starts happening with the Undisputed Era and a bunch of people, and Gargano like charges headfirst into it and is like fighting against the Undisputed Era. And it can even kind of play around with that, where it's like Candice LeRae sort of like, look, you went to a bad spot and whatever like that, and people are willing to forgive you, and you have to forgive yourself and do something like that. That would be pretty cool, I think. Like, Black absolved him of his sins, and Black is fine now with this. Yet maybe Gargano goes like, you know what? Yeah, I was the bad guy. Let me try to make it up to everybody. And then you build on that, and then by the time we get to Phoenix or something like that, it's him against some kind of a heel. I don't know, Lars Sullivan maybe again, and you can kind of play,
do that. And Ciampa, or not Ciampa, but Gargano, have they touched at all?
I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't think so, because he's been a heel since before he went out with the injury. He got injured during the time that he turned. So yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, so that's a fresh pairing. You could put Gargano against the Undisputed Era and maybe work Ciampa into that and the title.
I mean, no matter what they do, I'm on board. They know what they're doing.
This match just made it fundamentally clear to me that Johnny Gargano can never leave NXT. Because he'll never get any better. Obviously, he's amazing in the ring, but he'll never get a more prominent position on Raw or SmackDown. And because they just won't get what makes him connect with the audience, whether it's the heel or the babyface. Alistair Black will work on the main roster because of the gimmick, because of the entrance, because of just the everything surrounding, and the fact that he's just incredible in the ring as well. But I think Gargano has to be considered like an NXT lifer.
At the very least, he's going to be watered down.
Exactly.
So that's a shame. Because you would think that being on the bigger stage, that it would be like, okay, now you just get more toys to play with and more exposure, and now you can have more time dedicated. And it's not the case. It's just sort of, okay, well then now you're going to do your 2-minute hold the video and cut your promo and the words will pop up on the screen bullshit and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure without too long he'll be relegated to 3-minute like middle of the show matches against Jinder Mahal or something like that and then just nothing really happening beyond that point. Here the entire, like, I don't want to say the entire arc, but a huge part of NXT's arc for the last 2 years has been surrounding him and Tommaso Ciampa. So he's never going to get to a point where he's in that pivotal position on the main roster, no matter how good he is. Unfortunately, it's just there's too many people that are already established there in front of him. It would take him a long time to get to that level.
And that too is, I mean, go ahead.
I had the feeling several different times on the show that a lot of acts need to be NXT lifers and just stay there and let NXT be its own thing because they won't be utilized properly on the main roster.
Well, look at, I mean, Gargano and Ciampa have been really the anchors. Aleister Black's been kind of the unsung hero because even when he was the champion, he wasn't main eventing. But those three guys in particular have been the core of what NXT has been, at least for like the main roster type of, I mean, not the main roster, at least for like the main event for a year and maybe a little bit of change. So a match like this, Black versus Gargano, proves just exactly why they were able to do that. Because they were just so good. And you can't underestimate the value of just pure talent and being able to use it. Shawn Michaels comes back at Crown Jewel. He didn't practice ahead of time. He hasn't been in the ring for 8 years, and he's Shawn Michaels. He's just that damn good. And Aleister Black and Johnny Gargano have a feud that isn't the main event, and you could play around with the idea of it being like, well, who do we cheer? Who do we boo? Is it going to screw up anything with that? No, not at all. They didn't need to have a hardcore match to get people popping. They had a standing ovation at one point because it's just, they just know what they're doing. They're just that talented. And there's nobody stifling them in NXT. It's just them being like, oh, cool, you want to do some cool things? Go do cool things. And it's like, it's not that hard. Let them do their jobs. That's what they're paid to do. So good.
Really
it
good.
Just keeps getting better, too. That's the thing. We had Aleister Black wins that match. And then we move on to the NXT Championship. Tommaso Ciampa defeats Velveteen Dream. Another match that was spoiled by the tapings, but I have to admit, they got me. More than one occasion, I was like, oh shit, Velveteen Dream's winning the title. They got me at the Death Valley Driver when he first hit that. They got me with the on the move on the title. I thought that that was, you know, either going to be a disqualification ending or that would be their way to be like, oh, I lost only because of that and whatever. They got me from the DDT on the ropes. They got me on the Death Valley Driver and the elbow drop after that. Multiple times I was like, oh, fuck, we're getting a new champion. Or, oh, fuck, this is the end of the match. And every near fall was just so good. Velveteen Dream coming out just as Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
How fun is that?
So good. I want to say Ciampa, much like we were just talking about with Gargano, needs to stay in NXT. There was no way he'll get utilized properly the way he does in NXT. I would liken it to Kevin Owens. Look at how Kevin Owens was presented in NXT and look at how he's been presented on the main roster. Gargano is really, really good. Dream, I do think, is going up to the main roster, but he'll never be as good as he is with that NXT vibe behind him.
Well, the main roster, they're not going to let him do things like this Hollywood Hogan reference. Because he not only does the ring gear, but he comes out and he's eventually at some point in the match doing the whole point. And does the hulking up, does the big boot, does the leg drop. Has fun with it. And you can tell that, I mean, if you didn't follow him from Tough Enough and stuff, you can tell this guy is a big fan of WWE. So he knows that, like, he hits you with the nostalgia, you're going to pop for it. And, like, I had a smile on my face, and Hogan's never been my favorite performer or anything like that. I used to like Savage more than Hogan back in the day even. But that was fun. And it's like, that more than anything made me type out the thing that I ended up putting up on Twitter, which was, when I'm covering the WWE shows like Raw and SmackDown, it's work. When I'm covering NXT, it's fun.
Yeah. I agree.
It's a 100%. World of difference, isn't it?
It really is, man. And like I was saying to you earlier, I got a little burned out on wrestling this week, and by the time this show was over, I was just euphoric with everything because it's just like, oh, this is why I love wrestling.
And like, I mean, when it comes to like touting great things with this, both of them, Ciampa and Velveteen Dream, Ciampa knows exactly what he's doing. He knows how to play around with where he's trying to go. So it's kind of like, all right, I'm a heel. I need to get people to boo me. I know that they're going to enjoy me, so I know they're going to pop for whatever I do, but I still have to look like an asshole. And he gets it done. And he's so smooth in the ring. But even Velveteen Dream he still takes that to the next level. That grabbing the headband thing in the middle of the slide, maybe that was a plan. Maybe it was something he did on that spur of the moment. But crap like that is just proof that this dude has this it factor to him. And you put him up against Ciampa. Ciampa is proving himself to be one of the best in-ring people that they've got, too. Just as far as being a ring general and being able to work with so many people, because he's had great matches with Black and Gargano and the Revival and the Authors of Pain. And so he can work big, he can work small. They pulled off that vertical suplex on the outside.
Yeah.
It's amazing with Ciampa is the fact that he was never really, he was obviously well known on the independents, but he was never seen as like a huge deal. And since coming to NXT, just gradually he's built up a reputation of just being this like great champion. And the thing I love most about it is the fact that he covets that belt. That belt means everything to him. You can just see in his body language, the way that he looks at it, the way that he holds it up. He doesn't care about anything more than he does holding that championship. And it's such a really refreshing thing to see. Obviously a lot of people do it nowadays. It's not like the weirdest thing in the world, but there are certain people where you just you see them holding the championship, you just feel like, oh well, they're just carrying that prop around. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Something to help keep their ties up or something like that. But the Ciampa is just, that's his entire world that he's carrying on his shoulder, and he's going to defend it with all his life, and he's going to take any shortcut he can to keep hold of it. He's going to push things to a new level, like taking the padding off the ground, off the ringside area to try and use it to his advantage, or take the championship and just walk away with it, or try and use the championship as a weapon. It's a really good thing to see, and Velveteen Dream more than held his own in this match. I do have one issue with Velveteen Dream, the fact that I don't like the fact that he's starting to, it's nice every now and again, and I think especially with the Hollywood Hogan thing, the leg drop stuff was going to be inevitable, but I think he's mimicking too many wrestlers' moves. Like, he also did the flying forearm, the Shawn Michaels spot into the nip up. He's doing the double leg spine buster, which is a Triple H kind of thing. Obviously, the elbow drop is fine because a lot of people use elbow drops, and it's not the case of his one looks similar to Randy Savage's or anything along those lines. But I think there needs to be a separation between the fan Patrick Clark and the character Velveteen Dream, because Velveteen should be someone who wants to do his own experience and do things in his own way. And so taking elements from too many other wrestlers just feels like a bit of a little bit of a juxtaposition.
More of a cover act than anything.
Yeah, and it's fine every now and again, especially if he is dressed like Hollywood Hogan, you are going to see something Hogan related, so that's fine. But just throwing a few other people's stuff in there, it strays too far away from the uniqueness of Velveteen Dream and falls more into the Eugene character, which is just a guy that uses other people's moves to get over.
Hey, you know what? At some point, have him come out, the Velveteen You Dream. I'm cool with it because I'd rather watch the greatest hits when of course this is a horrible analogy because I've never been to a single concert in my entire life, and I don't like any bands whatsoever or musicians. I like individual songs and that's it. But if I were gonna go to, I don't know, say Weird Al would probably be one of the only concerts I'd want to go to. I know I'm ruining my credibility here. I don't want to hear the new album. I want to hear Fat and Eat It and I don't know, the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota, and like they're like, you know, give me the good things that I already know. Don't be like, oh, we're gonna do something experimental here. Like, you know, if Velveteen Dream wants to take something like the nip up and make that his own thing going forward a little bit, hey, he does it flawlessly. Go ahead and do it. Bottom line, as long as I'm entertained, I'll push aside everything else. And these two completely entertain the shit out of me. I have this down right now as one of my potential matches of the year. I loved it from start to finish.
I thought it might have. It's so hard because the show is stacked, but this may have been the best one-on-one on the show, just because I was convinced that Dream was winning at so many different points. Like with the Alistair Black match, I kind of thought Alistair's got to win here, but that elbow drop, I really thought we were getting a 3 count, and then when he went for it again on the outside, which by the way, that's a unique spot in itself. Ciampa was draped over the apron, and Dream went for a second Purple Rainmaker, and he missed it, and that caused his downfall. And kudos to Ciampa for using the second ring to his advantage. I loved everything that they did.
I'd probably still put Black and Gargano above this one. Just personally, I thought that told a better story. I think the Ciampa Velveteen Dream match was definitely a lot of fun, and it had me. I was definitely more hooked with the idea of potentially Dream winning than I was Gargano winning. But I just felt as an athletic spectacle, Black and Gargano outweighed this one. That's just personally, but like they were both great matches, so there's nothing really to complain about with either of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, what slice of pizza is better? It's like, pizza's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Can I get you to agree to that?
Oh yeah, like your one had pie. Yeah, your one had slightly more pepperoni on it, but my one was slightly bigger, so it's like
right, yeah.
That's why you want to look
love some pepperoni pizza right now. Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing though. If you are like I put down Dream and Ciampa as my favorite match of the night. But if you pick any of these matches, although I'm pretty sure if you pick Riddle and Ohno, that's a little bit weird. But any of these matches, if you say it's your favorite match of the night, it's totally justified. These matches were great. Like, it's not like somebody randomly goes like, you know, that one random pre-show thing was the best or whatever, you know? And the same goes with the WarGames match. I mean, this is a main event. This is the Undisputed Era against War Raiders. Ricochet and Pete Dunne, and they had a tough act to follow after all the other kinds of things that were happening on the night, and they managed to do it. They had, I want to point out logic again here, just proof that there are writers in WWE, whether it's the people in the matches themselves that are booking this, and maybe that's the difference with NXT, or if there's the actual writers themselves. Whoever is responsible, if I was wearing a hat right now, I'd tip it. Logic in the main roster just seems to cease to exist perpetually. It's just like, well, why are Chad Gable and Bobby Roode together? I don't know, because Bobby Roode wanted somebody else to be all happy and be like, hey, Dad, does it sound great when I say glorious? Like that kind of thing. Really stupid. But you look at the WarGames match. You've got the heels have the advantage at the beginning. Makes perfect sense. Again, the same kind of thing as like what happened with Baszler and Sane. So who do you have come out first for the babyface team after? Well, actually, before we even talk about that, you start this match off with Adam Cole and Ricochet, the two captains, the two bigger stars to a certain extent on their squads. Makes perfect sense. Undisputed Era have the advantage. How do you offset the advantage? You have the biggest babyface on a physical side offset the numbers game by coming out with Hanson. And Hanson also makes the difference up when it comes to Kyle O'Reilly because they just had that match and Hanson is pissed and he wants to get his hands on Kyle O'Reilly. Makes perfect sense.
And the added logic of Pete Dunne wanting to get in there and the War Raiders being like, no, we got this. We're the heavy hitters. You stay back there.
which also gives Pete Dunne the chance at the end to be the savior of everything. So they spotlighted the War Raiders as the big hulking mass. We're going to change the tide of the match. It's kind of like, well, we have a Hulk type of thing. And Pete Dunne being like, all right, now you can come and save the day. So Ricochet starts the thing off. He's the Iron Man of the whole thing. Pete Dunne sandwiches the two, this is going to be terrible, the meat in the middle of the War Raiders. There's a great spot in here where Bobby Fish locks Pete Dunne into the shark cage and throws away the key, which is amazing that they did that because, the Undisputed Era are the crafty heels. They would do something like that. There's a little flaw in logic here, and this might be my only nitpick of the whole thing. Why did the referees wait so long to get that bolt cutter?
Well, they had to find it, man.
Yeah, then I just have it hanging around backstage all the time. Whereas just dig through coats to find one.
You would think that would be one of the things that would be under the ring instead of having kendo sticks.
I would have teased, like, War Raiders wanting to save Pete Dunne, but hesitant about leaving because, well, they lose if they leave the cage.
Yeah, that would have been kind of decent. I don't know. That didn't even come to my mind because I was enjoying so much of this. But yeah, that would have been a nice little touch too. And they had the bolt cutters come out. Pete Dunne, of course, comes out, starting to change the game up a little bit. There's a good spot where he's fighting off all four people. Makes Pete Dunne look strong. Big fan of Ricochet being tossed into the other ring. They're holding up the fort. It's just kind of like, how are you supposed to get over there? Let's just throw one of our guys. He's the high flyer. He can figure it out.
I did like the whole... they had him in the ankle lock, and the Undisputed Era really did a good job of holding court for a second. And then, of course, you get the tables in there, and fucking Rowan Hansen just start wrecking shit. Those two are impressive specimens.
I was not into them before this match, and now I dig them. They made a statement here.
Hansen's a freak of nature.
How the fuck did that guy do the...
handspring back elbow?
Yeah!
He is just amazingly athletic. It's ridiculous that he can do, like, cartwheels and, like, the fact that where he was running from one corner to another with clotheslines repeatedly for, felt like a solid minute of just running from one corner to the other corner, constantly delivering clotheslines. He's just, like, he's not what he looks, let's put it that way. You expect someone like him just to be someone who just stands in the middle ring and lets people bounce off him, but he's just constantly on the move.
He's one of those guys that makes you really look back on older WWE, WWF, whatever you want to call it, events and go, God, times have changed.
Yeah.
Hansen is his size and moves the way that he does. Kevin Owens is his size and moves the way that he does. Keith Lee moves the way that he does, so on and so forth. And then you get people that weren't necessarily even as big as that, like Greg the Hammer Valentine or Dino Bravo or whatever. And those guys are like barely moving around.
Yeah. Well, especially towards that point, especially when they were towards the end of their careers, usually when they joined WWE at that point. But to be fair, the person that actually impressed me the most during this entire match was Roderick Strong. As soon as he got into the ring, just the flurry of backbreakers he was delivering was just unreal.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it's more of a nitpick than anything else because it was just like fucking awesome to watch. But then you see it and then you just hear the crowd just come out in ovation and just go, yeah, you're supposed to be the heels. You shouldn't be cheering for these guys. And this guy has just come out and just single-handedly just wrecked house of everybody that was in the ring and delivered some of the greatest backbreakers I've ever seen in succession. And I'm supposed to boo this guy now? Like, if he'd have low-blowed them before he did it, then maybe. But it's like, I understand they're cool heels and people do cheer them and they do have a huge following of fans. But it's like, if you want them to be the heels, don't give them so much cool shit to do.
Wow.
Eventually, when they do turn face, man.
Oh yeah, definitely, it'll be a huge deal. But it's just a case of his stuff looked amazing. Like, I've always been a huge fan of Kyle O'Reilly anyway, and as well, and Roger Strong and Bobby Fish look good as well. Rowe, when he came in, looked great, and obviously Pete Dunne, even working on a bad wheel, still managed to deliver a good showing.
Is he legitimately
there.
injured?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I think so. I think he is carrying a bit of a knee injury.
God damn, if he's injured and he's still pulling that off, like...
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And then, again, it's another like little nitpick. The weapons, it's great. It's a hardcore thing. Obviously it feels like a WWE version of WarGames, like a bastardization of WarGames as opposed to an actual WarGames. And it does make things kind of cluttered in there. Especially even with 2 rings, it's quite a confined space to have so many different weapons in.
If you're gonna do it, I would suggest doing it in like a clever way. Like have somebody hide a pipe in their boot or something. You know, like don't make it like, okay, we're gonna fill the ring with weapons exactly as we did last year. You know, just differ it up. You know what I mean?
I have no complaints about it. I was just in full, like, Mark mode of just like, fuck yeah, now we have trash cans. Like, you know, just kind of like,
You know, I will say
great.
trash cans you don't see used a lot. So trash cans are fun to see.
I always have the issue with, and this is an issue with like people like in the ring or the idea of using it, but my issue with tables nowadays is that that's all people care about when they see. It's like, oh my god, a table's come out. I want to see what they do with the table, and I'm going to keep chanting for them to use the table until they use the table, and then they use the table, and I'll cheer, and then I'll just forget all about it. It's like, it's like I think there needs to be a real move away from using tables for a while, and then when it does happen, it actually comes a little bit like it does get the excitement up about it, but it's the fact that it's kind of an overused trope, and it detracts from the actual action that's going on in the ring because people are just waiting for the table spot.
No,
It is kind of weird that people start chanting "We want tables" as soon as weapons come out. Like,
I know.
Since when did tables become the go-to? Like, that's the best out of everything.
I think people just like seeing things go crash.
Yeah.
Well, if they step away from it too much, we're gonna end up getting in December the LC pay-per-view.
Well, they should do something along the lines of like in TLC or whatever, or something along the lines. Just have a match where the entire ring is just a floor of tables, and then you just have to walk on top of the tables as the first person to go through it. It's just do something along those lines, because eventually that seems to be what all people want. I also want to like obviously highlight in this match above all others, like how great is Mauro Ranallo? Just we don't deserve Mauro Ranallo.
Was this the one where he was like, "Holy fuck!" Like almost to that?
Yeah.
Holy
exactly.
effing whatever or something. I forget how he had worded it.
He's just leaps and bounds above any other commentator in the entire WWE spectrum, in my mind.
Well, because the passion is real. Like, you can feel that. You cannot make that up. And
he doesn't feel like he's reading off a card.
Right.
And I know occasionally he is to bring up elements of story, but it's just every other person, it just feels like blah, 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 catchphrase, blah, 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 this person, blah, blah, it's boss time, the big dog. It's like, and I don't like picking, I do like picking on Michael Cole because he's easy to pick on and he's fucking stupid, but it's like, you just want somebody to just feel like it's quite organic and they're just making it up as it goes along.
Man, imagine how good a team would be if he were with 2 people that weren't as such a drag as Nigel and Percy.
I love Nigel. I think you're very harsh on Nigel. Nigel McGuinness is a very good commentator. Percy,
Nigel's just sitting there.
I like the fact that he's a former wrestler. That he can add a little bit of like guys expertise. I wouldn't say he's the perfect choice, but I think he works in that situation. Percy is basically just a third wheel that doesn't need to be there, other than the fact
hate Percy so much.
It's just for any other reason, the sense of like they just want to have 3 people on, and for some reason they always need to have 3 people on commentary booths when they should just go back to having 2 people.
And I mentioned this before, it's that weird thing of like the straight man, the snarky former wrestler, and it was on all 3 brands, the quirky black guy, and then Renee changed that up a little bit. But
yeah, she's not a real good quirky black guy.
No, she's not. But I don't know why they insist on having this pattern.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that like translates between both WWE and NXT, which I'm not a huge fan of. But you can kind of tolerate it because everything else you're seeing is like really good and really like solid and very well put together. But and especially the fact that Ronaldo's leading it makes it a lot easier to tolerate as well. But then it's just the commentary that enhances a match like this, where there's just so much going on and so many big spots that you need to have that sort of like passion behind it to really just re-emphasize how fucking awesome everything you're watching is.
Other things I really enjoyed. They either turned up the audio on the cage noise or they shut it down for the audience. When they hit 0, they did not let the audience get out that They did not let them get it out, and I was like, "Yep."
Oh, I like the.
Not.
I didn't notice it though.
But they didn't let it get. That's what I'm saying. They didn't let them get it out. Like you couldn't really tell, unlike a WWE show where the crowd just takes over.
I felt it was pretty obvious that they weren't actually 3-minute intervals between the things happening.
Yeah.
You could tell, like, I think especially with Hanson's one where he was in, you kind of felt, yeah, this has been like 5 minutes and you're still going, and you're finding the countdown's going to go. They were taking the liberties that they tend to do with like Royal Rumbles and stuff like that as well.
That's why the clock just magically disappears.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it'd be quite funny if it just like they just have it to go up to like 2 minutes 30 and then there's just no clock at all because they just haven't created one and just set it up the 10-second one whenever they need to get it sorted.
Another part I liked about this, we got to mention this, of course, that big 6-men clusterfuck bomb.
Yeah.
Where Hanson had Roderick Strong, I think, on his shoulders and pulled down. I lost track of it. Ricochet was the only one on the babyface side that wasn't involved, and I think Adam Cole might have been the other one that wasn't involved. Or no, he was the one that I don't know. Whoever it was, I think it was 6 people.
I think it was all 7 other than Ricochet. Because it was like a Tower of Doom almost spot.
Wait, were there 7 people that was involved? It would make more sense if that was the case.
Yeah, because I think Ricochet was the only one because he was the one that was because after that happened
Did that lead to
he
the
does
double moonsault?
Yeah, that led to his like I think it was like I don't really know what you'd term that move. It felt like a an inside 450 or something along those lines, but it was basically just him spinning on the air in front on top of a load of people.
I just have it listed
as a double moonsault. That's what they're going with, but it just looked like, okay, I'm gonna fly now.
I just have it listed as Ricochet flippy.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know what the hell to call it. It was fucking awesome. That's all that matters. At a moment too that I think that's gonna get lost in the mix of everything like this, but it was still another cool thing too. The trench warfare part. That's how they referred to how Morrow referred to it, where all 4 people on both sides just meet up in the ring, and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you want to fucking go? Like, just, okay, let's just take this to another level. Like, it's not the end of the match yet. We're still going to be like, I still have a lot of energy, and let's just be in this, caught between the 2 ropes. That was cool, too.
Oh, yeah. I'm worried that it was, like, a really awesome spot and really led to, like, really added a little bit of emphasis to the finality of the match. I feel like it's something that might be overused going forward. It might be something that we start to see like every time there's a WarGames match. I know that's only like once a year, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's like you want it to feel kind of special and there's like a real heated intensity between the people. Mm-hmm. So I don't want them to just do it for every WarGames just because, it's the WarGames match, we need to have the 4 on one side, 4 on the other spot.
Yeah. For that matter, I mean, the same argument that I have when it comes to Hell in a Cell and stuff. I don't need WarGames every year. Make it when you feel like you can do it. Just don't. You don't have to do the whole like, well, WarGames is happening because we do that before Survivor Series, so let's just figure out a way to do 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 or, whatever the case may be. Like, no, I'm cool with it just being like, whenever we get a chance and it seems like it makes sense, then we do it.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say it again. Undisputed Era, I've reached the point I want them to be lifers on NXT. I really don't ever want to see them go on to the main roster. They're so good at everything that they do, and the main roster is never gonna reflect that. And them, Ciampa, and Gargano, I am perfectly okay with never going to the main roster.
I have to ask about what you thought about the finish, because my original assumption would be that it would be one of Hanson and Rowe pinning one of Kyle O'Reilly or Roderick Strong to set up like an immediate tag team title opportunity. But they actually ended up with both Pete Dunne and Ricochet pinning Adam Cole.
I liked
Not-
it.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting way of ending it. I just don't really know what it means or what it signals.
'Cause
I
that
would
was kind
think
of the-
maybe, if anything, I mean, we have the tapings that don't point towards anything in particular, but maybe by the time Phoenix rolls around, we get a triple threat for the North American title.
Well, we already got that.
Yeah, we already had that match between
Yeah, we
those three
did.
on NXT.
Huh.
And also,
yeah.
why would Adam Cole get a North American shot when he just got pinned by both guys?
And I would suggest, if you haven't seen that, Tony, that you stop when you're done editing and all that, go watch it, because it was amazing. But it was kind of the jumping point of where we're at now, which is why I accepted them both pinning Adam Cole, because they got that monkey off their back, and then they couldn't take their eyes off of each other and their titles. And I think that's really cool, because you know they're going to have this, like, title for title. Like, there must be a winner type of stipulation. And I think that'll be really good for, like, Phoenix or maybe even WrestleMania.
Well, they did the title for title thing before, too.
Yeah, they have, but it obviously got interrupted by the Undisputed Era. I kind of saw that more as like a sign of, okay, I respect you as a champion type thing, even though they obviously would be interested in being champion. They kind of just, it was the sign that they actually see eye to eye to things, because even though they were obviously entering this match as teammates, they hadn't been like
They're not a tag
on the
team,
same page.
really.
Yeah, they hadn't been on the same page, and you could tell obviously during the match as well when Pete Dunne was keep trying to get involved, and War Raiders saying, "No, we've got this." It was like Pete Dunne still maintained his character as like a lone wolf. Really, he's more of just somebody that doesn't work well with others.
I'm a
But-
lone wolf. Every promo I cut's just very monotone. Just Pete Dunne.
Yeah, don't do my accent ever again. But, but it's like it's a case of like him obviously being involved in the situation where it was a tag team match. He has to get involved, but still staying distant enough that he could just move away from this and never team with Ricochet or the War Raiders ever again and be happy about it.
The one complaint I have about the end of this is that the War Raiders were just kind of left. They didn't show them posing or anything. I would have like had them celebrating as well. But other than that, man,
You have to assume
Right.
that well, yeah, you have to assume they're still the next in line for the tag team titles in Phoenix, though.
oh yeah. But you now
Yeah,
have
and they should win them.
you now have the question of what does Adam Cole do? How does Adam Cole get back into
Well,
wherever he's going next?
I assume he steps in the ring and says "baby" really loudly,
Oh yeah,
and then it just goes from there.
That's gonna happen, because it's amazing every time he does. And you know, I loved everything about this show. I can't gush over it enough. It was great.
Yeah, like I said before, it's currently, I think, ranked as my pick for the best pay-per-view of the year. And I don't know if I'm going to come across anything else that beats that. Of course, there's a chance. You never know. Survivor Series could be better or something. Highly doubt it. But I might have to go back and check out Chicago and Brooklyn and what was the other one that I had written down? I forget. I wrote some other one down. Some other NXT one.
I'd imagine it would have been the
New Orleans.
WrestleMania one. Yeah, New Orleans. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I might have to go back and check them out, but I kind of think that this one's going to be my front runner.
I like the fact
And-
that it's only NXT things you'd have to check out to try it.
Yeah. Oh
Oh,
no,
because it's not the main
NXT
roster.
NXT is so good. It's always fun to watch, and that is in no small part due to the fact that there's only 5 of them a year.
And also the fact that they're only like 2.5 hours a piece as well does also
And
help.
and because of all of that, they all make sense.
They cram in just, like, the best things possible in a short time frame, so it's not exhausting, and you don't feel cheated. You get exactly what you were hoping for. You get more than what you were hoping for. Like, I mean, I'm the type of person that's like, if I really, really like a movie, if you were to tell me that there's a 2-hour plus extended edition on top of it, cool. Like when I watched Terminator 2, my favorite movie of all time, I watched the extended edition of it where it's got the extra Kyle Reese scenes and stuff because I love the movie. And if I were a fan of Lord of the Rings more, then I'm sure I would be watching the, 7-day long version of that or whatever it is. But I don't ever feel like I needed more from a takeover, but I always feel like I want more. You know what I mean? The difference between those?
Yeah.
It's like, man, if they were to tell me that, wow, we added an extra hour and then we're going to have this match and that match, I'd be like, fuck yeah. It's never like, if they would have just had an extra 20 minutes, they would have been able to do this better, or this would have gotten more time, or this would have been whatever.
If they keep the format of, only doing 4 or 5 of them a year, I don't think I would mind an added hour, but the only thing I never want to see from them is, okay, we're going to do a takeover every month. Like that, I don't want to see.
Unless it was a 1-hour special and they didn't overdo everything and you incorporated NXT UK or something, which I've just not been watching NXT UK.
I would say a maximum of 6, like one every 2 months would probably be just the limit they should go to for these.
Yeah, do one. Well, they pretty much have it's spread out pretty well. It's Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. But you could probably fit another one in there, maybe.
Do you like them paired with the main roster shows, or do you wish they had their own?
I don't think it doesn't hurt really. I mean, the only thing it hurts is the quality of the main roster show, because the NXTs have always been set such a high bar that you watch the WWE show the night after, and you're more likely to be disappointed because they just don't have the same track record.
There's positives and negatives. One of the negatives is how they never give it enough promotion ahead of time because they're always so focused on whatever the main roster one is. So even if you click on the YouTube page, it's got Survivor Series up there. And I don't blame them because it is the main roster one. But it kind of gets lost a little bit. So that's kind of a downside.
I think it has the slight positive, like if people are more likely to be buying tickets for the Survivor Series show or something like that, then they might just decide, oh yeah, well, TakeOver thing's there before, maybe I'll get tickets for that as well. So I think on the whole it has slightly more positives than negatives, but I wouldn't be upset if they decided to just go, okay, we're just going to put this on at the start of the month and then the WWE shows at the end of the month or something along those lines.
Now, how do you feel about the fact that they're in the Staples Center for the next 3 nights with Survivor Series, Raw, and SmackDown? You think that guarantees at least one NXT call-up?
There are rumors that at least one is going to happen, but there's always rumors. So if that does happen, the only one I can really see is Nikki Cross. But I can see that happening at Survivor Series too.
I mean, the issues with the main roster in terms of injuries and recent events could just force their hand and make them feel like they need to make call-ups in order to compensate for the situation. But I don't know anybody in particular. I mean, you'd probably have to just take the tapings and see if there was any really notable absences that were appearing on this show.
DC3.
Potentially.
Yeah, I haven't seen them.
But yeah, it just depends on whether they feel like they need to bring people up to compensate for the fact that there's been quite a lot of injuries and absences recently.
I actually think Velveteen Dream is going to try to take Nakamura's title. That's kind of the way my mind is going.
Not to spoil the actual tapings themselves, but for anybody that's interested, Velveteen Dream does do something on the tapings. So does Ciampa, so does Black, so does Gargano. Pretty sure that Lars Sullivan does, if I'm remembering correctly. Kairi Sane does, Shayna Baszler does. Pretty much everybody that's been involved in this pops up. So that's what's kind of weird about it. But hey, you know, we've had people in the past where they've made the call up to the main roster, then they wrestled another 2 times in NXT. So you never really know.
Yeah. It'll just be interesting to see if it is all like, obviously being held in the same place. Then it makes it slightly more likely, but I wouldn't say there's any certainty over it at the moment. Just like I say, even though there's a lot of injuries and stuff, they've still got rosters that are very overinflated, and putting more NXT people into it is just going to reduce chances for other people to stand out.
All in all, major thumbs up. And this really helped renew my enthusiasm for things. So I'm hoping against hope that tomorrow night doesn't ruin it all again.
You never know, but I hope not.
I mean, with a bar set this as high as this show, that Survivor Series is going to have to be something ridiculously special, and you're probably not going to get the same level of match quality as these ones. So it's going to have to be a pretty much like a story-driven thing to get push Survivor Series over this event.
Let's put it this way. Survivor Series can't top this. It's not happening.
Right.
The quality of the matches, I agree. They're not going to be as good as what this is. The storytelling stuff might be, but there's so much more of a risk that tomorrow night we're going to be doing the post-show and I'm going to be like, God damn it, why did they have to change this around? Why did they have to go with this direction? Why did they have to whatever? Like, I'm nervous about Becky Lynch costing Charlotte Flair that match. And I'm nervous that they're going to do something stupid where they're going to make Shane McMahon the winner of the Survivor Series team, and he's going to turn heel, and we have one more heel on SmackDown. I'm nervous that they're going to job out the Usos and the New Day and make the Raw tag team section win, even though they have no tag teams that are decent. Like, there's so many ways that they can screw that up. So I'm going into Survivor Series looking at this as like, just don't screw things up. And then it'll be a decent show. You know what I mean? With NXT, it was like, I got high expectations. You guys should knock it out of the park, and if you don't, I might be disappointed. And then it's like, hey, you surpassed my expectations. It's amazing. Survivor Series is pretty much like, don't give me more of a reason to be pissed off like you did with Crown Jewel. You know, like,
that's fair enough.
See.
Yeah.
We will see. And of course, if you are listening to this, then you will probably want to be tuning into the post show for that. And the best way that you should be aware of that is if you subscribe on the YouTube channel and ring the little bell for notifications. Once you check that off, you'll be notified of when that post goes up. You will also see it on Facebook and Twitter. So follow us at Smark Out Moment on those two platforms. And on smarkoutmoment.com, you'll find all this kind of stuff too, because obviously posts are going up there on top of that. Pay attention to the fact that the mailbag is coming up next week. Send in those questions if you have not sent them in already. I know I got Peter's the other day, and I've gotten like one or two from Howard or so, and I don't remember who else. But if you have not sent them in, go ahead and send them in as soon as you can. We're probably going to be doing that on Wednesday, and hot tags are probably coming up too, because we actually have quite a bit to talk about. So we got Chronicles coming up. Check that out. We got the 365 of AJ Styles. We've got the James Ellsworth situation, maybe. You know, lots of different things. So that is some stuff to be aware of that's happening next. Immediate next thing is Survivor Series, as well as the live coverage on smarkoutmoment.com. You'll find all that tomorrow. Thanks for listening to this, everybody. We're going to go around the horn here and do a couple little more plugs. Rob?
WrestleZone.com is your best daily source for wrestling news. Other than that, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and anywhere else really at DudeFelice. And Time Killer Apparel is my clothing brand. If you buy a shirt or a hoodie or a hat, it will help support me a little bit so I can keep doing things like this. Callum?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. I recently just put out the power rankings for this week, so if you want to check who's gone up, who's gone down, who's no longer on the list, I took Nia Jax off basically on principle because she ruined Survivor Series. So you may not be seeing her for a little while, but yeah, just check that out and all the other weekly stuff on Smark Out Moment.
And a couple little things left to round this out. If you want to be interested on the Fanboys Anonymous side of things, go to Fanboys Anonymous. That's kind of how it works. That's why it's got a name to it. There's also the Patreon if you want to share your support on the monetary side of things and toss $1 our way or $5 or whatever spare change that you've got. Take advantage of the whole tier that comes with requesting different special features and everything if you are interested in that. TeePublic and Redbubble is where you'll find the t-shirts and the other kind of merchandise shop stuff. So pick up a t-shirt or whatever for Christmas. I don't know. Why not? And follow me at Tony Mango and follow all the other stuff that I got going on. You'll find that all over the place too. Just start clicking, do the whole clickety click, and you will find a bunch of stuff because I'm constantly working. But thank you all for your opinions that hopefully you're dropping in the comments below. Thank you for all the support, the likes, the favorites, the shares, and all the other things that are happening. We will see you tomorrow. Adios, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.